Okay guys, just to finish that chapter, I have included two things which are for your revision. Another learning summary grid, which is just those little pertinent questions to make sure everything's kind of clear in your head. Okay, a lot of people found them useful so far, so yeah, use it. It's a good idea if you want to use that to go through. So that's in the back of your chapter. With various questions. So what is a capacitor? Something that stores charge. You know, it's little things. Some used to drawing circuits, okay, and some goes at practicing those. So I have those in questions. We'll have a look at some of those at some point. The other thing I've got is basically a summary map. Okay, so this is quite a useful little technique as well. And what I want to do is really, I can do this as an example, but I think this works quite well with a lot of topics. So you want a really pertinent diagram, a really clear graph or something that really matters. So photoelectric effect, I'll base it on the graph that goes from negative through the work function and so on. But circuits, obviously, where all the circuits tend to look very similar, you might as well put it in. So here I have the ideas that kind of sum it up. We need batteries to charge capacitors, resistors to limit them, and so on. To my mind, what we'll do is just kind of link them together. So key things, symbolism, V0, that's always going to be a maximum, then VR, VC, it saves you writing a lot, obviously. So we've got different potentials going around all over the place. One of our key things is that obviously this is coming from IR, so don't be afraid of putting other things in as well. So that is a way of measuring current. If you want to measure voltage across there, I can measure current. I've got other things as well. So for example, we obviously we have got this idea of Kirchhoff's loops in here. So the other thing that really runs the whole thing is the equivalent. So I'm thinking of Q equals CV. Again, that's always crucial. So that's my capacitor voltage, so the voltage on the capacitor. If I want to think about what affects the capacitors, then really it's all about that fundamental simple idea where basically if we've got some sort of insulator and we've got enough room to store it and we've got a strong enough electric field, then we can bring those together to give us capacitance. Okay, so just remember again, between the plates, area of overlap, oops, excuse me, so just in case there's a trick question where they're not quite actually overlapping, not the whole thing, but yeah, so it's how much area overlaps. That kind of lead us into our whole idea of Kirchhoff's first, which was where we can say that C equals C1 plus C2, yeah. So if we had it in parallel, let's just put that there. Kirchhoff's first was the currents add up, parallel circuits. That was about the idea of, well, I'm making the area bigger. If I make the distance bigger or smaller, then it's giving us the other one. So that's your C equals 1 over C1 plus 1 over C2 and however many more that you've got. So that's the idea that comes from PDs in series. Okay, so that's your series circuit there. And again, for proof, might be worth trying to put this together. So that was Kirchhoff's second. The voltage is adding up. Okay, you don't need to really know, do you? Well, actually, yeah, you do. So you do need to know the currents is the first law, because that's what matters. What pushes them comes second. Other useful ideas? Well, again, the main ones from this are the fact that you've got this idea of loops making things happen. So as your current flows onto your capacitor, giving you this, well, they all link over time in a bit of a strange way, and that's what gave us the whole point of, say, that split into two. So if it's discharging, then basically you've only got your resistor and your capacitor, so V equals capacitor plus resistor, yeah, whereas for charging you've got the whole idea that V0 equals VC plus VR. So the first one may look a bit odd until you look at that one. So EMF equals the two PDs added up. For the second one, if you're discharging, you have no EMF. Okay, so VC equals VR minus VR to be more exact. So what that gives us is that leads into that generic equation, okay, of X. So maximum value, X naught, get it into shot, e to the minus t over CR, okay, and that's going down, okay, whereas that one for X increasing, and again sometimes you may see it as little letters in some equations, and we use the capital with a subscript for the maximum one, but again doesn't matter too much. That one's just 1 minus the same thing, yes, t over CR. Okay, so something like this may help as Kirchhoff's second again in a single loop. Just to make it really, really obvious for most people, I think they'll look at that and go, yeah, I can see that they add up. Again, the voltmeter doesn't affect it, assuming you've chosen the right voltmeter rather than the rubbish one. So effectively that's your current flow circuit. Okay, but things like that are quite a nice little way of linking things together. The only thing that I've got missing is to bring in that idea of time. So linking up from these top equations, you might want to think of time itself. So T over CR, well, if I rearrange that, I can end up with a slightly neater version, which again might appeal to some people more than others. It's how much, for example, how long it's taken for it to change to a second voltage from a first one. Okay. Notice they might not go to 0, it might not start at the maximum place, but as long as you've got a difference in voltage, okay, or a fractional change of voltage, so again, CR log of V2 over V1, okay, so they are the equivalent, they're kind of useful, maybe that looks quite nice, symmetrical for your brain. Okay, so a little summary like that is often good if you can visualize that, and more importantly just simplify it down. Notice, you know, there's not a lot in there, the bits that matter are in there, you know, and it's ideas and so on. Okay, but you're cutting away the chaff that clouds the picture. What are the bits that actually matter?